All right, thank you very much. So those are two teams that looked very similar, but they had a wildly different production. What's the determining factor here?
Well, Razer fielded a little bit of an anti-rush setup with those two curses, but they ran two curses while Hydra had the Hugin, and the Hugin always trumps the curse in stopping power. In these cases where, you know, Minmatar doesn't use cap for guns and so on and so forth. So they were always in a better position at the start of the match. They were able to overload their webs, overload their MWDs and get in range of that Razer Scimitar. And after they got that Scimitar, that was the match over.
I agree. Hydra played pretty flawlessly. They didn't really make any mistakes. They knew how to use their setup. They did what they needed to do, and just the better team won this time.
Yeah, all right. That's definitely a fair point. I mean, one curse is a pretty good number of curses, in my opinion. Like it's the one you need to go after a logistic ship. Would they have been better off with one curse, one Hugin?
I think they would have been better off. I still don't think that it would have been enough, though. In these Minmatar rush setups like this, there's so much damage that even if you slow down 2 or 3 of those ships with one Hugin, it's not going to be enough. You're still going to lose your Scimitar. Looking back on it, maybe they thought that Hydra would bring their Balgorn anti-rush setup again, and maybe they were set up to gap out and play a little bit of gap warfare there. But whatever they thought, it obviously didn't pan out that way. And Hydra correctly so switching their setups and bringing something new and surprising Razer.
They certainly did. So now we do have the finals. We have Outbreak versus Hydra. So Hydra, we've been talking about as the finalist. Outbreak, not so much, but they're suddenly here. Do they stand a chance, or are we just being unfair?
Well, it sounded a little bit from Kill 2 there that the Outbreak is in fact considered the B team of Hydra.
Oh, that's harsh.
It is harsh, but Outbreak has beaten some of the best teams so far in this bracket, and I don't think you can consider them the B team at all. I think they are as skilled as Hydra, and this one's going to come down to what each team brings and if any pilots on either team makes a mistake. I think this could be as close as it gets.
I think you're right. I'm actually going to probably put my money on Outbreak.
I just don't want Kill 2 to be as smug as I know he's going to be, so I want Outbreak to win this one.
All right, well, that's a fair and honest assessment. All right, well, development in the Alliance tournament is interesting. So is the development of EVE. So what we came from was having these massive platforms and simply improving on them.
Yeah, and then also just keeping EVE alive. EVE, of course, is getting old. It's like older than a lot of things that people take for granted. It's older than Facebook, for example, and so it's been around for quite a while. And a lot of the design principles about how you designed UI and how you designed tutorials and so on, they just have evolved in the way that people interact with computers. And I have this like perverse liking for old other MMO sandbox MMOs. Like I must admit, I downloaded an illegal version of Star Wars Galaxies the other day, like the original one, and I was running on a hacked server. They run servers that allow you to play it as it was before they broke it. And it's pretty cool, actually. I mean, there's a massive community in there. It's just a bunch of people like pretending that NGE never happened. Yeah. And there's also another game called Worm Online.
Yes.
Author of Minecraft was a co-developer on that, and it's a very hardcore sandbox game. It's very interesting, like an entire environment you can like interact with this. Any just see grass and you dig a hole and whatnot. Where am I going? Yeah, so those games, hard to play.
Yes.
Yeah, and so right click on grass, right click on like a context menu, right click on shovel, like pad, and it's obvious why they don't get pickup and why Minecraft gets pickup because it's just left click, press button, and you can be you can be heavily sedated. And an infant, I had actually my infant son play Minecraft and he was pretty good at it. So I'm not saying that EVE will be played by infants anytime soon, but it's not very accessible. And it could be so much more accessible, and it's so much more easier to use. And a lot of the UI, the way it has grown kind of organically. So this random window here was written back in 2005, but this one was written in 2007 when our designers were thinking about this. And this one was written in 2009. They all do pretty much the same thing. And if like somebody had a master plan and was doing it today, they would all have been part of the same super window, which would have been beautifully designed. So that's a lot of discussions that we have today, like how do we take all these like random things? For example, your inventory, your deliveries, your corp hangar, and your ships are all like different windows, and then you have a fitting window. You're drowning in windows, as if you're like using Photoshop in the 90s. So we're talking about just an example, a global inventory, bringing all these windows together into one like super window, which gives you a really nice way to work with that. Improving the map as a better planning and logistics tool. Map is the thing that we have least iterated on over the years. It's just grown, but we haven't like really changed it.
Right. I mean, I don't use the map at all nowadays. I just go to .lan.
Yeah, but it could be. But we could also like somehow plug .lan in there. But as a planning tool, like as a planning and infographic tool and so on, both for yourself and for others, and to figure out where you're like doing your next mission, or as a total noob to understand how massive the universe is and how active it is and so on.
I think it was a revelation to some of us, maybe not all of us, that Eve is many, many years old now, but it was only like a year and a half ago that you had actual UI designers on the team.
Well, that people with that actual time. There was a UI designer, UI guy. He changed into a programmer. The programmers just started whispering code snippets to him, and he started like typing away, and he transformed into a programmer. But
it is looking a lot better.
Yeah,
just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but we have two like UI designers who don't program at all. Nobody whispers anything to them. I just smack people when they try to like take them away from me, and they just design, drink lattes and think, and then 3 UI programmers. And there's a lot of thought, and more now with Carbon UI, with people from Core that are helping out, and a whole new UI library that allows us to do fancy things in 3D, and 3D on 2D on 3D. And
you said something really interesting that I quite liked.
Finally.
No, I mean, you were talking about how making something intuitive doesn't necessarily make it less complex or sandboxing. I mean, as you said, Minecraft is wonderfully simple, but still a incredible sandbox game.
Yeah.
And I mean, isn't that a much nicer place to be than through all the right-click menus we have?
It is, and it's because but it's hard to unwind it.
Yeah.
So and you need to do it intelligently. You don't just come in with a massive axe and just snip everything to pieces, and maybe because people that have been playing the game for a long time, they're used to a particular workflow. They like putting the windows up there, and they know where the overview is, and they know how to configure this, and they just go in and start playing. And you don't want to just ruin the game for them. So as a random 13-year-old can play it. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, but it is like the windows when I was logged on this morning, and I had a scanner, and I had a fleet window, and I had my chat open, and I was doing something else, and I mean I could hardly see the game.
Yeah.
Like some of this must be able to be like condensed in a more clever way.
Yeah, and there's also more things that I would like to make 3D. For example, the overview just grew like a cancer. It was this little window, and then people were like, you should put more stuff in that, and it just grew. Yeah. And now people don't watch like these beautiful 3D graphics that we made, and they just watch the overview, which make the game a bit one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But I realize people are like fond of the overview, and they like using it, and as a fleet commander, it's like very important for you to like have it and so on. But I would like to move more into the game, into 3D, to be able to see your transversal, to see things in like the brackets and in the game itself, rather than as a field in a spreadsheet. And I think we can, but this is also like the slow-moving mandala with the heavily sedated monk.
And also, doing something new and wonderful that's not what people are used to, and saying, trust us, this is going to be better than like the list that you've just been staring at for a while. Do you think we can do it in a way that people aren't going to be upset that we're taking away what they're used to.
No, they will always be upset.
All right.
That's just, I mean, if you have this big of a crowd and people who are that deeply invested in the game, which I mean we love and we respect them for it, and it just pays for this tie, for example, and a lot of other things. Yeah. Your Red Bull habit. And what am I saying? Yeah. So when we make changes to the game, like any change, people will be upset, and I respect those opinions. But we have to like look at the whole and look at the few who are perhaps hurt, but it benefits the whole, and then the lives of the few.
I think traditionally EVE players have been very resistant to change, but most of the time, not all the time, most of the time the changes are for the better. So
there was a lot of debate about Plex. When we were introducing Plex, we don't, at least I don't get that much like heat about Plex today. We get a lot of heat about other issues, but we don't get a lot of heat. Plex was going to ruin the game.
Yes, EVE was going to die.
Yeah.
It would shut down forever when we introduce Plex.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of it. I think sometimes you also have to accept that people are going to yell at you until you give them what you actually promised to give them. Like, it's difficult to sell something in theory. Say, trust me, this is going to be really cool, and people are like, is it really? But when they actually have it and see that it is really cool, then the kind of opinion turns around, just like with Plex. So I guess sometimes you just have to be yelled at for a while.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Anyway, let's get back to more of this future stuff. Jim Nova is one of our tournament favorites. He's been with the tournament since probably tournament 2, running the GMs, helping the tournament. And he usually makes a lot of bets, and he doesn't really get a lot of them right. One bet was he was going to eat his mouse mat if something went wrong, and of course it did. If Razor lost, and of course Razor did lose, and I think we might have a picture of GM Nova eating a mouse mat.
Well.
This is GM Nova sitting in the CCP office eating the official More Production mouse mat by CCP.
perhaps a gentleman who should not go to eVegas.
Further proof.
All right, that was a quick jump to GM Nova. We have a feature coming for you very soon. I think it might be about Team BFF and the little things.
Yeah.
Talking about resistance to change, when we first had to do little things.
I like the way you say it.
Oh, no, well, not meant like that. I thought that it was revolutionary and crazy, and how could we ever do small things instead of a big feature? And you said it would turn out well, and now that it's actually gone out, I've been convinced that it was actually a very, very cool idea, and we hope we keep it up. Is that what we're going to see more of for all the, like for Dust and for all the other things then afterwards?
I can't promise for Dust because there's a different development team on Dust. But like the part that faces EVE, but there will be some birthing pains getting it right, getting it out there. We'll have to react to how players are going to abuse it. And
I don't know why you're looking at me. I would never do such a thing.
Goon Swarm and Pandemic Legion.
No,
we play by the rules.
Absolutely. We stay within the lines.
So there would be serious development efforts to deal with the fallout from how they will try to destroy this beautiful flower for us. So that will take time, and there will be iterations on it. But for the more closer things, to the classic things that we know as phase or flying in space, then certainly, yeah.
Very cool.
But we have more plans for Incarna, but it just depends on our ability also to put out content. We are building the content pipeline. Building a single room actually is a massive effort today because we're building all the tools, and then building like the interiors of space stations will get easier as we do more.
All right, I think we've had a good run of you guys being able to ask questions. Do you guys have anything for 12?
Something you mentioned earlier that I was kind of curious about, actually. You said that now, originally there was an EVE Dust link, and now it's just like one seamless universe that you're going for. Was that the original intention, or did that sort of organically happen?
So the original intention was to have it like just one seamless universe, totally. And then we started thinking about it and worrying about it, and the technical issues and the game design issues became somewhat daunting, which made the design teams kind of go back to the trenches and be more safe about it. Thinking about like how can we build kind of a firewall between the two if something goes wrong on either end. But it just wasn't as fun. And when we started thinking about it and we started talking about what do you really want to do, I want to nuke them from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. And I wanna like go in and destroy somebody's like infrastructure hub or like tear their sovereignty. It was more hands-on and connected, and that was what everybody in the development team wanted to do. So like, fuck it, let's stop worrying and being fearful and just design something cool and make it happen.
But are you not worried? If one game or the other isn't participating as much in the battles, is it going to mess up the other game?
System is pretty resilient as it is designed, so it doesn't mess up the other game. It doesn't require like massive engagement on both ends, but it becomes more interesting as the engagement is increased.
Okay. Shadu, any questions?
I think one of the comments from the community certainly has been that, well, it's taken a long road to get here with Incarna and, everything else and Dust and so on and so forth. One of the comments that I would like to echo is that it would be wonderful to put the focus back on flying in space again and give us something more on the space battles. Somehow perhaps try to direct the 0-0 warfare towards smaller objectives, smaller gangs. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, that might just be about to happen. But that said, for example, with Incarna, even though I wrote a blog back in 2006, like for 2 years it was just like me doing like coding and doing tests in Jessica or in-house tool and so on. And then there was another guy, and then it grew like really slowly. So it wasn't the entire development team randomly doing some stuff. It was just very few people to begin with. And Dust, again, is being developed by a whole another dev team in Shanghai and Newcastle, console programmers that, are just doing that.
So you can assure us you're not ignoring flying in space?
Totally. We have a number of teams working on flying in space, but as we move further along, as we develop more features and iterate on features, we will integrate Incarna and maybe Dust into something that used to be flying in space. For example, an iteration on outposts might allow you to go into them and do something, or an iteration of wormhole space or something like that, where you wouldn't expect Incarna, but because we see it more as one game rather than this random game with avatars and then Eve, we see it as one game.
Sure, if you make the ground forces able to blow up a station, we would be very happy.
Suddenly ideas come up, But I mean, for me, I've been with CCP for a few years now, and I've only worked in flying in space. So I mean, of course, there's a perception that we're only doing Incarna, but my entire time is with CCP has been with flying in space, and the only shift for me is that we're moving closer to it. So me working on flying in space also means probably working on Dust for a little bit, because they're not separate things. But I mean, we certainly have people working on flying in space.
Certainly, and these smaller changes done more frequently, and I think we will all be happy, and certainly looking forward to how the integration of the sub-warfare plays out. Might have to buy a PlayStation 3.
I just got mine, and I set it up in close proximity to my computer, within orbital bombardment distance of my own team. So I'm pretty much ready. I think we do have, speaking of flying in space, I think we do have a segment on Team BFF. Torvi, thank you very much for coming by. It's always a pleasure to have you here on Sunday nights. Let's take a look at a little featurette about Team BFF.